The event continues. After Daredevil was captured, he was chained up by Zabancher, who sat beside him with a stick day and night. The general prosecutor was furious that they failed to apprehend Zabancher. And you'll be very annoyed by Karen because she used his client as a scapegoat. And she also says that if they change anything in her plan, it will cost them a lot. And we see that she is leading in the office. And she's watching a movie on Net Channel. And this channel, Basha, is making solid summaries, honestly. I mean, and you know when I tell you something, it's hard for you, Islam. Why do you say this? Faruha Basha did them like this. Come on, Basha. Geruto calls him, demanding his surrender as the police are after him. He insists on meeting, proclaiming his innocence and refusing to be used by others for their gain. In a scene, Daredevil asks Punisher why he removed his mask. Punisher responds, stating that he doesn't care if Daredevil knows his identity. Does it turn out to be Jazzo? Daredevil deduces from Punisher's scent that he has a military background. When asked about his use of the term stealth, Punisher does not provide a direct response to Daredevil's inquiry, and he tells him that he is doing what is required. Daredevil prefers to talk to him, ask him, and hover around him in order to know who he is and what his goals are. The Punisher, a former soldier, is visibly distressed and avoiding the topic of killing, which he admits is causing him great suffering. The conversation is having a profound effect on him, and he refuses to discuss it further. He tells Daredevil he's a positive person to justify using a stun gun to kill, but Daredevil remains stubborn with him.
And he says that
he doesn't kill anyone, and he's supposed to not do that. Shame on you, friends, for not doing that. At the hospital, Fuji searches for Matt's accomplice, questioning a woman who claims to be too busy to have seen him. Zabancher, whose real name is Frank, is seen talking to an older man, informing him that his sister Aisha lives in the building while the man smokes a cigarette. The man leaves. Frank rejoins Matt and they discuss their morals regarding killing people while playing with the rope. And Matt doesn't kill anyone, even if he was annoyed, and he gives him a second chance to try to be better. Oh god. Unlike Frank, who kills anyone he sees that he doesn't deserve life. This hardworking man gets annoyed at some and calls them crazy, like he does with Frank, saying, "Oh son." Kareem is interrogated by the public prosecutor about his crimes and their demands after being assaulted.
They are excited.
All this talk, but the public prosecutor seems to agree with the discussion, so we see in the hospital that there are a few criminals at Killer's place. Sometimes they want to hit each other. He bought me with my mother in the name of Allah the Merciful. He is like a stunned uncle, God preserve him. He knows that he convinces them that they do not hit each other. The police are intensifying their presence in certain neighborhoods and thoroughly investigating hospital records. So you can see if he's dead, it's better to be dead than anything else. And we'll see if Frank knows how to bring Geruto, and he prefers to hit his mother and tell her, "Die. It's my right to kill you, my mother, and with your hand, death is my choice." Either Frank gets Geruto, or he dies and Frank comes. And time passes and death hesitates until Frank kills Geruto, and I laughed. You'll still think about your uncle's death. He'll be himself, get up and hit Frank until he gets angry and takes him along. He'll end up dead facing a street gang later when Frank splits them. Mitsiglevtak. We'll witness another day of isolation and meet Vino, a stubborn man determined to kill the person who murdered his family. He stole a lot of money from him, but they are amazing without bias. They surround him, observing his interactions. When people fail to bring them to his location without an invitation, they are killed. When they search Frank's house and don't find the money, they take his dog hostage, leaving it in the car. This keeps the threat of killing the dog a possibility rather than having John Wick kill everyone over a dog. Frank watches from near the house, witnessing the events unfold. Matt, Kern, and Fugi are seen inside Geruto's dead dog, with no one else around. After discussing the situation, they express guilt, feeling responsible for the dog's death. I could have killed someone to save a life, but the Foundation assures him it was unnecessary. Geruto's death was not in your hands to begin with. And we see the three in the office. Kareem discusses the case and files with the group. Matt and Fozzie have a private conversation, and when they return, they discover that Kareem has left with the files. She vowed to God to be with you, Matt, seeking the truth before causing harm with the paper she possesses. She's crazy and talks to George about Benicia. George, a doctor, saved her Uncle Frank, who has a divorce record, before he almost died. They do awake and she takes Frank home before he gets scared. He was expelled from the hospital for harboring a criminal. And we see Frank sitting in the pub afterwards when a group of Irish eyes stop him from entering. He was headbutting and hitting one of them, but they overpower him and take him with them in the van, and Daredevil arrives and asks one of the guys on the ground, and he learns from him what happened. And Karen enters Frank's old house and she finds out that he had a wife and daughter, and when she enters the children's room, she confirms from the pictures and toys in it, and we see Frank tied up in the van. Later, the Irishmen take him away to a place where he talks with them while allowing the men to torture him. Van tortures him in the van by hitting him, blowing him up, and putting out a cigarette under his foot. A man is interrogated about the location of money while his dog Van attacks him. Despite the dog's bites, he throws a cigarette under his thigh. Kamal, wearing a base, and others search for the bag containing the money, which is hidden in a separate compartment in their stomach. And he knows about Uncle Frank, that he can free himself and wants to kill him and his men. They kill you without taking the dog, but unfortunately he kills them without. When they answer the question who killed his wife and daughter, they would drive and arrive, fight with some men, and Frank would take them. Then they would run away to the cemetery and talk to each other about some things. And Frank tells him about how his wife and daughter were killed and that he couldn't even help them. The police arrest Frank, and Matu, Fozzie, and Kareem celebrate and go home. On his way, Matu senses someone in his car, pulls a knife, and waits, only to find a woman named Electra. They become a couple. They met about 10 years ago, and they were in a relationship. Thank God it ended, and she went her way because at the time she had a relationship with the person. Abu Mat was killed, but he survived the encounter. Your Uncle Mat passed away, but thankfully he wasn't murdered. What was the police's statement? She is a cunning woman. They said she was a virgin with him and she wrote a contract with Roxon Company, which has most of her father's assets. If she returns, her lawyer will not remain, but unfortunately he refuses to even leave the banana. And we will see Matt, Fozzie, and Kareem in the office talking about a case belonging to Farand, and Fozzie tells them that he is trying to make them a big sponsor for Mola, and he walks away. He senses something is amiss, believing the electricity caused it. He plans to visit the company where the meeting was once cancelled for him. He will emerge and use his keen hearing to eavesdrop, but he hears someone whistling. Kareem enters the newspaper archive to search for any articles about the incident of Franco's family being killed, but finds nothing related to this in the newspapers. After her death, Kareem and their partner explore their evolved relationship, revealing their enduring love for each other. He visits his Aunt Matt at Electra's house to find out what he wants, shocking her with the conversation. She kidnapped one from the Yakuza Japanese gang or the Chinese. I can't decide, and she also knew that he would remain stuttering, and the Yakuza gang would reach Electra's house, but your Uncle Matt and Electra would be gone, and God forbid, and she would start to delay Electra. They are working with each other to discover the mystery and the march, and he will be happy to perform one operation with her, but he will die. Suddenly they took Frank to the hospital so they could show him that they would remain his lawyers in order to find out who killed his family, and they brought him his right and protected him from the death penalty. And he works with Electra to perform an operation so they can go steal an important paper from Yakuza after they took the paper they were about to get caught, but thank God they managed to escape, and he goes with Electra on an important mission. And it won't be easy at all, and there will be many Yakuza ninjas in it, and Electra gets injured, and Matt was about to die because of these ninjas, but Stick comes. Stick, his old teacher, comes to rescue him and helps them to get out of there and treat Electra, and Stick says, these guys are not Yakuza at all. They are a group called The Hand, and they don't die, and they want something called the Black Sky, and they think it's their savior, and the Black Sky comes out of your Aunt Electra, and we'll see what's in it. And it was that they were escalating in Frank's cases, but there was a lot of pressure. Fahim ibn Halal was far away. He was whispering in your Uncle Frank's ear, so he helped your Uncle Frank. He tries to mess with them by pouring gin on them. In the days when you would sit and curse their mother, unfortunately they would lose the case and fear prison and meet your Uncle Fisk, and the first time he meets Fisk, he comes to Fisk in his ear and he starts talking to each other, and Fisk offers him an opportunity. Frank escapes prison with Fisk's help to avenge the deaths of his wife, daughters, and the man responsible for their murder. And he later discovers that the real person behind the death of his family is still a person like him named Blacksmith. Frankie starts tracking him down and chasing him while Karen tries to learn more about Frankie's case. Daredevil and Electra continue their mission. They fight in the gangs and they face very strong gangs, honestly, and Electra, she sacrifices herself to save Matt, and whoever prefers Matt hits them and Punisher helps him to get rid of them. After the battle, Matt confesses to Karen that he is Daredevil and the gang leader who died because of him is shown. He took her Electron and put it in a device like a coffin. God knows what it is. And this is what we will find out in the upcoming episodes on this amazing channel. The story is over. Please subscribe, like, share, and follow on Instagram. Don't forget to tell us about the Kareem event. Goodbye. And subscribe to Ahmed Najd's channel because it is a very solid channel. It has scary movies and things, and you will definitely subscribe to it because he is the one who writes it. And don't forget to fear most of my mother on Facebook. Subscribe to the channel and subscribe to a solid modern channel, or subscribe to a modern channel. Madam, subscribe to the end of your story, Jiminji.
And that's